In the last video, I spoke about setting the correct conditions in the feet for the movement that we wanted to do. So, what exactly are those correct conditions? Well, in a nutshell, it all speaks to the pressure that we apply into our feet. So, let's talk about that pressure a little bit. Where does it come from? It has two components. One, it's our body weight. Two, it's from the working large muscles in our legs that adds to the pressure in our feet from the body weight. The other component of the pressure that we apply into our feet, importantly, very importantly, is the distribution of that pressure on our feet that makes an immense amount of difference. Whether the pressure is off to the side, off to the front, or the back, makes a great deal of difference to our stability, balance, and to our movement. So, when we're speaking of the pressure in our feet, it's very important to talk about where the increased point of that pressure is. Where that pressure is in our feet that feels the most pressure, the increased pressure. Everything that we're going to go through, everything that we're going to discuss, everything in your movements, whether it's standing, just a static stance, or whether it's a dynamic movement, everything comes back to where's the location of the increased pressure in your feet. Because it's the location of the increased pressure in your feet, that place where you feel the most pressure in your feet, that's what we use to control everything we do. When that increased pressure is applied into the floor by our foot, that determines which direction our body moves. And it also determines how fast our body moves. It determines what our stride length is going to be, how long or how short. It all comes back to that pushing point of pressure, that increased pressure in our feet, where it's located. That's what this is all about. So the right conditions in our feet is setting the pressure where it needs to be in our feet or foot for the movement we want to do or for just the simple stance we want to do. Everything comes back to that. Everything, every problem that you will have, every question that you have, every question that I will ask you, it all actually is asking the same question. It's all coming back to the same issue. Where is or where was the increased pressure in your feet located? If the movement is working perfectly and you're saying, how did I do that? Well, where was the increased pressure in your feet when you were doing that? Oh, I had a problem. I was falling all over. My body did this and I thought I wanted to do that. The question, where was the increased pressure in your feet? And where should it have been? So knowing what the correct pressure is for the movement is the most important part of what you need to learn. Because that controls your movement and that dictates everything that you want to know. So what about natural movement ability that just happens? Well, it just happens because our body is naturally relaxed. It is free to move where it needs to move, different body parts, move to counterbalance the other body parts, to hold that pressure where it needs to be for that specific activity that we're involved in. Whether it be standing or moving, everything just comes together and relaxes into that pressure that needs to be held in our foot or feet for that activity, for that movement. That's the control that we're all looking for. It happens down here. It's our body relaxing into that pressure and using that pressure into the floor with a relaxed, flexing foot. Without the relaxed body, without the relaxed foot, nothing works like it's supposed to. When we add a little bit of guarding attention, a little bit of caution to our posture, that changes all this free counterbalancing, reflexive, cooperative activity. And it also limits the flexing ability of the foot. So now the foot cannot apply that pressure into the floor as it needs to for what we want to be able to do. That's where all these problems start to come in. And as those problems start to happen, we start to become concerned. We change our posture a little bit more by being a little more apprehensive and cautious about it. And our feet are not able to work as they need to work. And the big point with all that is we are more challenged in trying to control the location of that increased pressure on our feet. It all comes back to that. So again, that control that we want in our movements doesn't come from this up here thinking about where it's supposed to be. Because to be honest, this doesn't know how to adjust everything here to put that pressure where it needs to be. There are a lot of you that are saying, what do you mean this doesn't know about all that? Well, think about that. If this knew, many of the people with movement problems would not be having a movement problem. Those people that are having a movement problem where their body is physically normal, those people that have a movement problem where their body still works, they wouldn't have that movement problem if this knew what the problems were and this knew how to correct those problems. So the answers many of you were looking for is not up here, but you continue to go up there trying to think about it, trying to understand what it is that you're doing wrong when this doesn't know. This does. This does. It's just that we get in its way. We limit our posture's ability. We change the conditions on our feet to where they don't work as well anymore. We do that with all this fear. We don't know how to stop that. It's a cascading effect. Learn how to stop that by learning what you need to do to correct the pressures on your feet and to hold them where they need to be. And learn how to once again relax this posture by teaching yourself what it is you learned back when you were a toddler in diapers. We learned everything back then. By the time we were 2.5 years old, we were doing everything we wanted to do, and then some, without a care in the world. Movement experts. Everybody is a movement expert that went through that stage of their life, and that's almost everybody on the face of this earth. Everybody is a movement expert, even those with the movement impairment. And the expertise is not in what you understand up here. The expertise is in this, being able to produce all those wonderful movements. The information that you want is here, not here. So with all of this that we're going to be going through with all these videos, it's teaching you what it is you don't know that you already know how to do. It's teaching you what you learned back then as a young age before your mind could comprehend what it was. It's teaching you all of those things about this is what you learned to do back then. This is what you learned to control. These are the pressures that you need to be using. These are the ones that make everything bad. What's the difference? How do we move in between each one? That's what you're learning in all this stuff. That's the importance. We're intellectually learning what we physically learned back when we were in diapers. Okay, for you in the UK, in nappies. We're teaching the mind. And once you intellectually learn what it is you don't understand about your movements, then you're going to be better able to correct a lot of the problems that you're having. So let's move on and discover all those things again. To start educating this up here with the knowledge to understand what it is we learned when we were wee little people.